Please rise and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, the posting of the colors, and the invocation. Color. Hold. Left. Face. Present. Colors. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Colors. Ready. Cut. Right. Face. Forward. March. Let us pray. Our dear Father in heaven, on this hallowed and special day, in the shadow of the colors of our great nation, and amongst distinguished guests, friends, family, all who love, cherish, and have come to support and remember Eric Michael DeAndrea, we ask your Spirit to be with us. Let our memories grow even fonder as we hold him in our hearts. Strengthen the DeAndrea family, we pray, and be with us. In your holy name, even Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
We will now, you may be seated. I think the funeral home must have a special relationship with the fire inspector, because I believe we have definitely exceeded capacity today. We'll now have a special song, On Angel's Wings, sung by Regina Rossi. JROTC. That was exquisite. We'll now have the reading of the Word of God by Jacob McFarland.
And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. And there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away.
Thank you, Jacob. We will now have some reflections on Eric's life. And Gordon Bowen will start us off, and we invite any who desire to share their cherished memories of Eric with us.
I first met Eric in the planning of the 2014 spring NYLT course. He and I didn't necessarily know each other as well, very well that first year, because we had our passings throughout the trainings and the procedure of the course. After the course, he and I, we saw each other at our monthly VOA meetings, and we started getting to know each other, became friends. We started planning, talking about what he and I could do to help make the course better and help make it run smoother. We started talking, and collectively we came down to there were two things that made the course: our presentations and the gear we used to help run the course. He and I couldn't really do a whole lot about the presentations because everybody gives their own presentation style. So we then thought, well, we can do something about the gear. So he and I, we started talking about it, came up with a little system and everything about it. And as the next course came closer, he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to staff it because of school stuff. So, but I told him even if he can't staff it, his ideas would still be going through the course, even if he wasn't, because I would make sure that they would have it. So the 2015 spring course went well. Then he talked to me and said he was going to try to staff the fall course as well. And so even though it was hectic trying to get everybody to the trainings and everything throughout the summer and everything, we did it. Then the course came and we did the first weekend pretty well, even with some hiccups. We had fun still. Then the second weekend was pushed back due to unforeseen weather, and the second weekend came, and that Friday night I told Eric, like, we've got three team patrol guides that won't be there, so you're probably gonna have to fill in for one. And he got this look of worry all over his face and started freaking out. Even though he was freaking out, I was laughing at him. I told him, relax, man, you got it. You've been through NYLT before, you know how it's done. It's not necessarily about who's leading them, it's about what they learn. And no matter what, we've all learned things from Eric, whether it be life lessons or just talking to him and learning little stuff. He may be gone, but he's still in our hearts. He's still with us in prayer, in our hearts, in our minds. An eagle has fallen, but he will rise.
like Gordon, I met Eric through NLT when I went through as a participant in 2013. And him and Dylan and the whole DeAndre family are part of the reason that I came back to staff. They gave me that motivation, the courage to learn and step up. So I got to staff the spring 2014 course. And naturally playing softball, I had a softball game every weekend, of course. So as soon as I got there, which would be hours after the course began, the first thing Eric would ask me is, how are your games? How'd you do? And I'd be like, oh, we lost. And he goes, no, but how'd you do? Eric, he was like, Laura, how'd you do? I want to know. So told him. He was like, see, you did well. Good job. Go have fun. Bye. Just who Eric is. And then in 2015, first weekend, I was sick the entire first weekend of the course. I was napping before one of the things I had to do for service. And he came and was like, hey, Laura, your game starts in 2 minutes. I was like, Eric, you couldn't wake me up, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes ago, maybe? Maybe? Possibly? He was like, well, better late than never, right? Okay, Eric. So then this past fall, one day over the summer, all the troop guides got together, and Eric and Dylan came. And we didn't get anything done. We really didn't. We talked for, 2 hours about topics here and there, nothing pertaining to Scouts at all. Eric being long-winded, always. Something else to say. So we got to the course, and we got to the staff dinner. And we all sat together and making jokes, laughing, watched a movie that night, and I was icing my back because it had been bothering me. And Eric started ripping pieces of paper, throwing them at me while I was laying on a table, icing my back, trying to watch Finding Nemo. And Tim and Dylan were sitting on opposite sides of the table, trying to see who could hit each other in the face with paper. And then after the movie, we all sat at the back of the loading dock at Pipsco, and we're just talking. We actually got to were sent to bed by Stan, our course leader. And he was like, you guys need to go to bed. And so we did. And the next day, had a feast, went off to bed. Went off perfectly, always asking Eric, hey Eric, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? Always giving me a job or saying, Lord, that's too heavy, your back hurts. Okay, Eric. So then this course, for the spring, I had the pleasure, for the spring, Eric and I were going to finally be able to work together as senior staff. Him as the ASPL for quartermaster and me as the ASPL for program. And I know whoever does ASPL for quartermaster will remember Eric and do the best they can to make sure that everything he wanted to have happen will have happened.
Is this working? Oh, okay. I got it. Hi, my name is Brett Pullman. I knew Eric just like the rest of these guys through the scouting program, mainly through the National Youth Leadership Training course that everyone's been talking about. Wow, these 3-foot-long legs really started a good week. I've known Eric for, I think, 3 years now. He staffed the first time in 2012. We were still trying to get a figure on each other because he was very enthusiastic and I was very enthusiastic, kind of like a competition. It was really awesome. You know, he fueled me, I fueled him, and we just shot like rockets straight to the top. But no matter what, he would always go out and help someone else, even if that meant it would put him back 3 spaces. And when we were doing the NYLT course this past time in the fall, me, Dylan, another scout, and Eric were all just sitting around talking like 3 a.m. in the morning. It was ridiculous. And then we decided to go to sleep. Well, the scouting policy says since Eric was 18, he couldn't sleep in the same tent because the other scout, his tent got wet. So Eric took his sleeping bag and slept outside and let the other scout sleep in his tent. That was amazing to me, and that is a huge inspiration to me to what a good person is. And I was found amazing. I don't really know how to, I don't know how many times I can say amazing, but I'll try. And just as others have said, Eric could probably give you a 30-minute speech about soap. I don't know how he did it, but seriously, we're talking 30 minutes about soap. And so me and him would have these long conversations about universe, soap, I don't know, like just all these random topics. But just talking to him brought so much happiness to you because he was just a genuinely happy guy. He was enthusiastic about life and enthusiastic about whatever he did, and a true servant leader. And a famous person by the name of Stan Lee, who founder of the Marvel Comics, defines a superhero, and let me read it to you. Another definition of a hero is someone who is concerned about other people's well-being and will go out of his or her way to help them, even if there is no chance of a reward. That person who helps others simply because it should or must be done, and because it is right, it is the right thing to do, is indeed, without a doubt, a real superhero. Eric DeAndrea is my superhero. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Hannah. Like many people sitting in this room, I had the pleasure of getting to know Eric through the scouting program. I served on the 2014 MLT staff with him, which is the first time I really had a lot of interaction with him. But today I'm thinking about the last time that I saw Eric. About 3 weeks ago at a Venturing Officers Association meeting. Eric never held a position in the VOA that I can remember, but he came to every meeting, and through his long-winded conversations, he made everything better. He made sure events happened. He made sure the planning was there. I remember a time this summer when we had an event just fall through. The planning wasn't there. And instead of going through all the reasons why it didn't happen, Eric took the time at the meeting to try and come up with a new plan, to reconstruct something that had no foundation, and he made something happen, something fun, something with a venturing spirit, something uniquely Eric. But something that many people have said, his leadership was silent. He held a strong presence in a room, and a lot of it was through humor. Through funny impersonations, or through little side comments. I remember at that same meeting 3 weeks ago, he leaned over to Brett and whispered something. And he made the entire room laugh, not because we heard what he said, but because of Brett's thunderous laughter at what Eric had said to him. People talk a lot about the scouting spirit and what that means. And you can try and live up to the scout oath and law as much as you want. But if you want to see and live the scout oath and law, you exemplify a life like Eric. You bring a presence to a room that makes sure that everything gets done. And you make sure that the people around you, your friends, know that they care, that you care about them. You know, I didn't have the pleasure of getting to know Eric like other people did. But I just know that he truly bettered every room he was in, and I'm so thankful to have known him.
spoken. We met Eric through scouting, but when I first met him, I didn't really talk to him because he was new. You know, the first week, you know, he and his brother were just standing in the back. I think it happened at a court of honor, and we're seeing all these patches upon patches, you know. Patch Mountain on that sash. And so finally went up and talked to him, and we really hit it off because other than scouting, it was easy for us to connect because just like him, my dad was in the Navy, and so we had lots of friends and getting used to moving around. And so not only through scouting being able to meet him, but knowing that we both had a moving around military background, I think made it easy to open up knowing that. And also having someone the same age as him, he helped me on my Eagle project, he came, he emceed my Eagle Court of Honor. But more than that, there was more to it. He was instrumental as one of the founding members to revive the crew at St. Gregory's, Crew 490. And I was glad to have been a part of that. And we've done a lot of fun events. One of them being snowboarding. We have this event where we go skiing and snowboarding. And the first time we did it, Eric tried to snowboard. We're all laughing and being dumb with each other because we're falling down, watching our dads, mess up and go in the snow. There were probably more marks on that snow than anybody had previously that day. NOAC, Jamboree, definitely were some really fun memories, but Kodiak probably had one of the best memories. We were up there and all of a sudden a storm front came through, and at first it was beautiful, but part of the Kodiak is doing service. Well, we were going to go do service, and Eric's just walking up, stumbling along. And he's like, I'm going to go do service, and we couldn't see him because the clouds covered him. And we said, no, get back here. And it was a really, really bad thunderstorm, and so I brought a board game. And so we went into the bathroom that was up there on the mountain, and we started playing a board game in the bathroom. I guess a game of all things too. We couldn't get anything right. I'm infamous for a lot of my friends who know me, these sunglasses. They're always on the back of my head, like this. And so one day I forgot, wasn't paying attention, and this is how I knew he was always going to check up on me and be a great friend. He said, hey Pat, where are your glasses? And I said, oh, I forgot. Oh well. And he's like, no, it's not, it's not real unless the glasses are here. And I said, I guess this is a dream then. Yeah. Because it's not real if the glasses aren't here. I think one of the things I'll miss the most about him is our rivalry and the similarities we had. We both did a water sport in high school. He did crew, I did swimming. We always argued about which was harder. He kept trying to say crew was harder, and I was like, well, you use every muscle when you swim, and I'll beat you in a race. He was honest that, yeah, he'd lose. We both would end up going to ODU, same engineering school, same major. And so, that's one of the best things, about Eric was not only the scouting connection, but, getting to know him on a personal level was probably one of the greatest things because we could open up and talk about anything. So, truly, one of the greatest friends anybody could ever have. Thank you.
Hi. Unlike everyone else who's spoken, I did not meet Eric through Scouts. I met him at school. He's actually my boyfriend. And over the year that we dated, I don't think I've heard him say no to hardly anyone. He's always doing something for someone else. Anytime I wanted to hang out on the weekends, I asked, are you busy? And in true Eric fashion, because nothing could be said straightforward, it depends. It depends on what. You know if you're busy, you know if you're not. It's like something along the lines of, I've got MILT, or my family and I are doing this, or I've got to help Miss Becca with this. He was always helping someone out or putting a smile on their face. Pass him in the hallways every day, and no matter what, I'd see him stop someone in Bree's way and ask if they were okay, or how their day was, or, if they just life, and he would talk about life. And even a few times he'd stop and hand out a candy bar to someone he saw in the hallway, and one of the classes was fundraising. He was just always putting people before himself and looking after everyone who he met. He actually helped me out with my Golden Award for something I'm eternally grateful for. And as corny as it sounds, I don't know that I've ever met anyone more kind or caring or respectful than Eric D'Andrea. And on the other hand, he was also one of the most stubborn people I've ever met. Once he had something in his mind, that was it. He was going for it. Whether it was something crazy for decorating our hallways this year, or even as crazy as dating me. We met junior year in Miss Rhodes' class, and no one took it seriously. And I don't think I had more than a 5-second conversation with him until our activities fair this year. We were all standing up, and he was talking to some mutual friends, and I walked over, and then next thing I knew, we were alone. And I convinced him to join theater. Just trying to recruit some guys, and he was standing behind our table, and his mom walked by, and the most deadpan look that I've ever seen, asked him what he was doing with theater. He followed me around for the rest of the night, helping me clean up our booth and not letting me lift anything heavier than about 5 pounds. He followed me to all of my classes, and by the end of the night, after I had shown my mom to my TOK classroom, standing in the upper 900 hallway, he was on the fast track. He was trying to give me a kiss. And thank you, Dylan, for stopping him. And I firmly went into senior year not wanting a relationship. I knew I was going to college, didn't want to start something I couldn't follow through. But like I said, he was stubborn, and he talked to me for the rest of the week. He came to the theater interest meeting that week, which I thought he was just saying okay to impress me, but he was there. And on Friday when we were leaving, fully dressed in his JROTC uniform, he held open the door, and he said, "Look, Bae, I don't know where this is going, but I'm infatuated with you." And he had me hugs. I reached up on my toes and said, "I don't know where this is going. We can start with this." And I kissed him. And from then on, it was me and him. We were perfectly content with that. He had everything planned out as he always did for the next 10 years minimum. And as some friends have recently told me, he even had a proposal planned out after he graduated in March of 2020. And I'm so glad that I have the privilege of being Eric D'Andrea's girlfriend, and allowing him to have love that so many people can't find in their lifetime. He was my first, and I'm certain he's my truest love. And thanks to that love, I've gained another family, the D'Andreas, and I'm certain that's the way that he would want it, and that you guys would always make it in my lives. Eric was a go bigger, go home kind of guy. And I think in 18 years, he managed to go huge. Just looking at all the accomplishments in scouting, earning the most difficult high school diploma in the world, and to quote Miss Camper, "Yes, I said world, there is nothing that matches it." And all of the lives he's touched, as evidenced by the kind outpour of words and the sheer amount of people here. We don't have enough seats to accommodate everyone who he touched and everyone who he had an effect on. Memories of his goofy ear-to-ear grin, dissertations on everything that I never let him finish. And the way he just lightened the mood in the room will be with us forever.
I'm sorry to interrupt anybody.
Well, I also met Eric doing JROTC, but the story I have today is actually at Order of the Arrow event, which I don't remember which one it was, but I was doing something which is very common, running around with my head chopped off. And just something was going wrong. I don't remember, but I'm trying to figure it out, and he just looks at me and says, smiles. Calm down. And that's all he said. That's all he had to do, because he was just almost down to earth, just really there people. In all the chaos that whatever that problem was, he was the one person that just stopped me and said, it's going to be okay. And so that's what I thank Eric for, just being that solid rock in any situation.
I'm Lance Zellers. I maintain the crew boats for the Princess Anne High School crew team. As you can see, I'm not part of this generation. But I demand equal time. The reason I have a job maintaining the boats is because of some of the young people you see in the back here wearing the blue Princess Anne shirts. No rowers, I don't get damage and maintenance work to do on the ships. And in case you're wondering what a crew boat looks like, I'm sure you may have seen them on the weekend going to and from a regatta. They're those long, skinny, yet graceful boats that ride these endlessly long trailers. Every year we have about 40 young people from the school who row with us. We do row year-round, weather permitted. Things happen on boats. They get scraped. Things strangely get bent. Screws come loose. Bolts fall off. Lots of things that have strange origins that I don't really worry too much about. Sometimes it's a little adversarial relationship. I rarely get to know any of the rowers too well. I don't interface them, I don't coach, I fix things. But occasionally there's somebody who takes a little extra interest in what keeps the boats going. Eric was one of those. Eric would come over when I'm working on a boat and he'd say, "What are you doing?" And I would tell him. We'd have usually some good conversations. I'm not sure, in retrospect, that either of us learned anything from the interaction. However, he did show an interest. He talked about, every now and then, he would talk about what he wanted to be when he finished growing up. Ideas, things that inspired him, all those little things that come out once there's a trust established. If I had known and taken an opportunity just 1 week ago to tell Eric as he's getting in the boat and say, "Eric, make sure the shoes fit tight. Make sure the foot stretcher is adjusted for your stroke length. Make sure all the bolts and the nuts in your workspace area are tight." Make sure you're ready to row, because the finish line lies just ahead. Bon voyage, Eric.
Good afternoon. Eric got to know me, as you can tell from scouting, but I had the honor of being his first employer. We had a large job coming up. The city of Norfolk decided to hand a contract a month behind schedule and said if you can't get it done, pass it to somebody else. Well, I like a challenge. So his lovely mother, Eileen, came to me and she said, Chris decided to baptize his phone in the Atlantic Ocean, and we're not going to buy him a new phone. So he has got to earn some money. So I said, okay, I'll put him to work. This young fellow shows up on time every day. And in this society, it is almost impossible now to find a young man to show up to work on time every day. And he worked hard. And we're on this roof, and it's a white roof going up. And the roofers are behind schedule. And we're dying. And he's sitting there and he's working as hard as he can. And I got a chance to sweat and bleed with this young man side by side. And this wasn't an easy job. I mean, this is a big 4-inch pipe going up on a roof. And after the first week, I pulled the crew together, and our team, start, stop, continue. And his eyes lit up. What, you're doing a real one? I said, well, yeah, this is, start, stop, continue. How can I get better? And he just started rambling on. And on. And on. Well, anyhow, his time came up and he had to go to school. And that was fine, it was awesome. And he looked at me as he was leaving the job and he said, Mr. Warren, you're a mafia. I had no idea what mafia is, nor do I still. So if somebody here knows what mafia is, other than, Italian gangster, please let me know. Because I would, the receptions later come up and say, hey. But in the Order of the Arrow, which is very close to my heart and his family's and him, when you receive the Vigil honor, this is not a rank, it's an honor, and it's bestowed upon you by the youth. They give you a name, and my name is Sapiwagan Lino Winwington Heat. It's a Native American name based on the Lenape language, and it is translated into English as Lightning Man who likes to talk. I found my match. Actually, I think I was outgunned.
Thank you all for being here, for the family, for here celebrating Eric. When he was this tall, I was Uncle Eddie, and when he got his little glasses that he wore like a little old man, I was Uncle Ed. And it's my nephew and cousin to my two boys. And as many have shared today, his spirit was really one of making sure that other people were always happy. And the story I'll share to expand on that is we were visiting the family in Hawaii, and Eileen and Chris are off doing their thing, working or doing the Navy thing. And we're home, and of course we want to have fun. Eric had some assignment he had to go do. And he knew there was going to be grief if he didn't do this assignment. Parents were going to come home and ask him about it. But I said, Eric, let's go for a hike. I said, I really want to go for a hike. And I want to experience more of just the normal area. He goes, no problem, Uncle Ed. Let's go. And so my son Matthew and I went. We went with Eric. We had this wonderful hike, these massive roots, these jungle trees. It was not one that you'd see in a postcard, but one that we really enjoyed. We got some pictures. Somebody cut their finger. He had a Band-Aid in the wallet. We found a piece of fruit, and he shared it with his cousin, and we had a great time. Came back, and all along he knew that there was going to be some kind of repercussion, but he was willing to do that to make others happy. So I ask all of you to carry that spirit forward, carry his way of thinking and his perspective forward, to keep everybody close, keep each other happy, and just remember him for a wonderful person that he was. He was loved, and I'm going to miss him dearly.
As many of you can see, I knew Eric through Skylar. great person. Like my father said, he worked for my dad. And on Halloween night, I threw this party and I invited Eric. And before the party, he called me and said, "Hey, do you have one of those like orange, brownish red hats of your dad's?" And I said, "Are you talking about a hard hat?" He was, "Yeah, whatever. Can you save it for me?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So I went to my dad's truck and I grabbed one and I told him, "Okay, when you get here, I'll give it to you." And I knew when he got there, because he wore the bright yellow shirt that said "Born Electrical" on it, and he showed up as my dad. He even shaved. And so I took a picture of it, and I thought it was really funny, because I told my dad, I said, "Hey, come stand next to Eric, so that way, because he's here as you, and I want a picture." So I want to save this moment, because this is really funny. He was like a brother. I remember I staffed with him this past course at NYLT. I was a troop guide, and my first presentation, I was really nervous. I stood there and I was about ready to have a panic attack, and he was there. He was there for me. One night, I was walking, and my knee was really bothering me, and he was like, "I'll give you a piggyback ride. I don't want you walking right now, your knee hurts." So I was like, "I'll be fine, Eric." He said, "No, get on my back right now." I said, "Okay." And so I did. And then the first night, it was raining really hard, and I don't like thunderstorms. And it was about like 12. I was tired. I was like, "I'm gonna go to bed." He was like, "Okay, take my rain jacket." And I said, "I don't need it. I'm not gonna need it." And he said, "Take my rain jacket." I was like, "Eric, no." So he opened his book bag. He got his rain jacket out and he threw it at me. I was like, "I don't need this." And so he was like, "Take it, because I'm not taking it back until like the morning." So I was like, "Okay." So I went to the tent and I had it on, and my dad was like, "Is that everything in his ODU rain jacket?" I said, "Yeah." He took it out of his book bag and threw it at me. And I kind of laughed for a minute. He was like a brother. I really did.
My name is Griffin. I am one of the members of the crew team. And I had the pleasure of running with Aaron for 2 years. He and I and Dylan were a part of perhaps the most unlikely state regatta qualifying boat in history. Through a variety of reasons, we made it to the regional regatta, having never rowed together in practice before. And we were rowing out to the starting line of the race, and Eric goes, "You know, we should probably practice how to start the race." So we did that. Finally came time to start the regional regatta, and we're sitting there at the start, waiting to be told what to do. And he says, "All right, boys, no matter what, this will be the best this boat's ever done." And so we raced. And we didn't win. We did not win. But we at least got third, which in in our coach's eyes is what it takes to send you off to states. And once you get there, you see all those scary Northern Virginia teams. You're not feeling too good about how it's about to go. But then, a boat drops out of your race. And you're like, hey, we did better than that. So we went into that state race, first heat, and the way a crew race works is at the end of it, the coxswain, that's what Dylan does, he calls a bonsai. And you give everything you have, every last bit of energy you have into every stroke for the last 30, 35 strokes. Dylan didn't quite know where 35 strokes was. So when he took his best guess, it ended up being about 60, 65. It paid off though, because we didn't come in last. And we were so excited because we had managed not to lose in the first heat at States. And it was something that it was my first year rowing. I had no idea what to expect. And I was happy that we had been able to do that. And last year, we had a little bit more idea what we were doing. We had a little bit more practice, and we practiced together so much. It was myself, Eric, another gentleman who's about to come up here and speak, Eric, and another gentleman, Chris, and Dylan as our coxswain, and we were out on our water a lot. And I'm very glad that I had the chance to be in those boats. They've really been a big part of my journey through high school, my journey through life.
Well, as Griffin said, my name is also Eric, but it's spelled a bit differently. As you can tell, I'm not American myself, but when I came to America 2.5 years ago, the first thing I noticed was that there are a lot of differences between Norway, where I'm from, and America, but there's also a lot of similarities between people. And the thing that struck me with Eric DeAndrea was that he was a very down-to-earth guy. It was very easy to fare a conversation with him. And he had some classes with my older brother, and they didn't get along. Get along very well. So when I was talking to my brother about Eric DeAndrea, he went, ugh. And I just went, I don't see how you can not like him. He's a very easy guy to talk to. And he had some, like some people have said, he had some long-winded conversations. But you could always find something to talk to. There was no awkward silence when Eric DeAndrea was around. And I joined the crew team a bit late in the season. And the first time I was in a boat, Eric DeAndrea sat in front of me. And the first time anyone is ever in a boat, it's scary and it's confusing and you have no idea what you're doing. And PA Crew's coach, as much as we love him, can strike you as a bit intimidating to a novice rower. But he just kept turning around and saying, hey, you're doing fine, you know, and he told me some corny joke, and it left me, my first day at crew practice, I left with a smile on my face. And my second year, I had the pleasure of rowing with him in a varsity boat with, as Griffin said, along with himself and Griffin and Dylan and also Chris. And the first time we ever took that boat out on the water, I remember it was a beautiful day for rowing. The water was completely calm. And you know you have a good boat when the oar locks, you can hear the oars, when they turn, you can hear they snap at the same time. And the first thing we noticed with that boat was that we were all turning and putting our oars in the water at the same time. We knew from the beginning of the season we had a good boat. And we rowed through the autumn regattas, and one of the first regattas we had up at James River, coach informed us that the varsity 4 would be rowing twice because we had a varsity 8 as well. So, and that's a 5K race, so we weren't so happy. But we rowed the varsity 8 race, and we got up, we got right back into the varsity 4, and we rowed down. And And some of the other crew teams were like, didn't you guys just blow? We went, yes, we did. And then we came second in that race. And part of, I feel that the integrity of that boat was because of Eric DeAndrea's light-hearted humor and how he managed to, you know, it could be a terrible day, it could be cold, it could be windy, it could be rainy, but he would always, be in a good mood, he would always cheer you up. He had a sort of an aura around him, that when you were around Eric DeAndrea, you never could feel as gloomy as the day might seem. And so last year we qualified for states again, and after some careful consideration we decided not to go, and but again, you know, the mood wasn't incredible, but Eric DeAndrea would always just smile and sort of say, hey, you know, we qualified. Not that far. And the very last regatta of the season is up at Matthews, and many people agree that it's a semi-serious regatta, and I remember him wearing his knee-high crew socks, and he just had a smile on his face the entire day, and that was his last high school race, and it was a mess, but I mean, we do PA crew because we love it, we think it's fun, and Eric DeAndrea was definitely a part of what made PA crew unique and fun to be a member, to be a part of.
As well as a lot of other people before me. I knew Eric through scouting, and around the time he came to Virginia Beach was when I was first really getting into leadership positions. And along with him cheering up everybody who was there just by his presence, I think a big part of that was that you felt more secure almost when he was there. He always knew what to do. He was very generous with advice if he thought that somebody did it. And I can hardly recall a meeting when he wasn't there, when he wasn't helping. Even if he seemed like he had a lot of stuff from school or whatever, he was there, actively involved in the troop. He was something of a mentor. He was one of the best of us.
Hello, my name is Andrew, and I want to talk about how Eric really helped me with my transition from middle school to high school. I came from a high school with about, I want to say like 400 people or so. And then I got to the Princess Anne and there was 1,800 people or something like that. And I didn't even want to go to Princess Anne. I wanted to go to a different high school because that's where most of my friends were going to be going. And so it was really, I had some classes with my friends, but like, it was pretty awkward because I didn't know a lot of people. And so for some reason, I didn't have a math class that year because I just like complications. And so I was taking computer science and I was actually in a class with my friends. But then my schedule got changed. And so I was a freshman and I was the only freshman in a class of all juniors and seniors taking computer science. And I didn't know anyone in the class. So for the first few blocks, I was just sitting in a corner. But I guess I'll come back. Like I had also joined the crew team, and so I was also not really fitting in there because I didn't really know anyone. And so somehow I just met Eric, and we shared 3 of the same interests. I'm in crew, ROTC, and we were both in that computer science class. And then I started sitting next to him, and like, thank God, it was so easy to talk to him. made me feel a lot more confident about being the only freshman in class full of juniors and seniors. And I just really want to thank him for helping me feel like I belonged at high school in that phase. And then one more thing I'd like to say is that we both shared the common interest of playing video games. So basically, the video games that I played, you have to buy them, but a lot of times there's sales that you can get, and they just become really cheap, and they're time limited, so you have to buy them before the sales expire. So I remember one time I was just looking online, and I thought I saw the deal of the century, and so I didn't it was gonna run out in a few hours or so, and this was at school, by the way. So it was gonna run out, let's say 5 o'clock. So what I planned to do is I had money, so after school I planned to walk over to GameStop and buy a card, and then somehow get home redeem it because it's online and I didn't have a credit card or anything. But I had to stay after school for after school activities, so it was 4:30 by the time I got out, and so I didn't have it would have taken too long to walk over there, and I didn't have a card. So I considered my options, and I was like, oh, Eric plays video games with me, I'll call him, he might have a credit card or something. And so he didn't have a credit card, but he was at home. He literally drove to the school, picked me up, took me to GameStop, let me buy the card, and then I redeemed, basically I got this stuff, and it's just so amazing that he just stopped whatever he was doing and came to the school to pick me up and do this for me, and yeah, that's all I have to
I had the pleasure of knowing Eric growing up. We met when we were 2 years old at Child Time Daycare. And from the moment that we became friends in that class, we were inseparable. Causing havoc, making teachers chase us around before nap time. Just having lots of fun together. And for the next 4 or 5 years, we were just that inseparable. Always at each other's houses, playing together, hanging out. Playing t-ball together on the same team, and unfortunately, as most military families, they end up moving. And I remember the days leading up to them moving away. I wanted to be over there as much as possible. And each day there were fewer and fewer items in the house. And on the last day, I remember we made a plan to play outside for as long as we could, hoping that for some reason he wouldn't have to move away. It didn't work. And he moved away, but we told each other that we would always be brothers and stay in touch. And several years later, they were living in DC. So me and my family decided to drive up and meet them and stay a weekend with them at DC. And so he toured us around DC, went to the museums, and just had a really good time. And unfortunately, we kind of lost contact for a couple years, and then about a year ago, started keeping in touch again. And I was able to follow him through Facebook and different events. And even though he's gone, I'll always be a brother.
these young people have been talking about Eric as an Eagle Scout, as an adult scout, as a big kid. I knew Eric when he was the baby scout. Okay. I knew Eric. We knew the DeAndres from Gitmo, which means I knew Eric from scouting. He was in my son's class. He was an altar server, he and Dylan, with my son. There were times when it was every other week. 1 week it was the DeAndres, the next week it was the DeGroffs. And then it was the DeAndres again, and then the DeGroffs. I think Eric helped train my daughter when she became an altar server. I knew Eric from CCD because I helped teach his class. The next year, I taught Dylan's class, and Chris taught my daughter Kat's class. It's Gitmo's kind of an incestuous community because you know everybody thoroughly, and you run across them all the time. And Gregory, my son, and Eric had their Arrow of Light ceremony together. And I was new to this whole Girl Scout thing because I was a Girl Scout. I don't know where Eileen learned this stuff, but she had it on point. They had an absolutely amazing Arrow of Light ceremony. And one of his first badges, because we were in Gitmo, was fishing. And they had a new scout leader. I was afraid of the new scout leader. These little boys were a little intimidated of the new scout leader. Eileen wasn't there. When we picked the boys up from the boat, I was getting Gregory, and Chris was getting Eric. And because this is Gitmo, the boat came back late, and we were already late for whatever the next activity was, both of us, probably church. And they weren't done, because they caught these fish, they now had to gut them. Okay, first of all, yes, I'm Catholic. My mother fed me tuna every Friday when I was growing up, because apparently Vatican II didn't reach New Jersey. I don't like fish. My husband was in the Navy for the first 16 years of his Navy career. The Navy kind of forgot that islands and ships aren't the same thing. His first aviation was Diego Garcia. That's a tiny little island. And then after we got married, when we first moved, our next duty station was Gitmo, which is a tiny little place on a fairly big island, actually. And then we ended up in Okinawa, also another small island. So we spent a lot of time around fish. We never see fish. And so our kids don't eat fish. And so Greg was supposed to prepare this fish, but first, before he got there, he and Eric had to gut their fish. And Chris and I are standing there going, come on, Tom, we really need to go. We're late. And so my son went first, and I don't remember exactly, but you stick the knife somewhere in the rear end of the fish and go forward, and that's about all I remember. And then it was Eric's turn. And Eric's fish wasn't dead. And Eric said, shouldn't we maybe like bonk it on the head or something? The scoutmaster's wife said, oh no, fish have no nerves. And I'm a corpsman. I'm a retired corpsman now, but at the time, granted, I was a reserve corpsman. I played in the pharmacy, but fish have no nerves just did not make sense to me. And so Eric manned up, and something he's obviously done throughout his career. When I saw that sash, I was just like, is there a single badge he has not gotten? Because I've never seen so many, except maybe Dylan's, because I know Dylan, and there's a really good chance he's got more. But he took care of that fish. When Eric was done with it, it was no longer alive. I don't know how it tasted. But and then I turned to Chris and said, I thought I was going to pass out. And Chris said, so did I. So being the squeamish girl, I didn't feel so bad. But that was Eric. If something needed to be done, if he needed to do something, he did it. He was entertaining in the classroom, in the CCD class. I don't think I was subbing yet when you guys left. But he was always entertaining. And sometimes that was kind of difficult as the adult, because as entertaining as it was, there really wasn't less that we're supposed to be doing. But we will miss him. And I know Gregory was very disappointed that he couldn't be here, but college, being what it is, he didn't think that he could spend the time in the car to get down here.
Considering I'm not in the scout uniform, many of you are thinking, hey, maybe he didn't meet him in scouts either. You're wrong. I met Eric 9 years ago now, and we've been friends ever since. I remember the first scout meeting I had with him, and the reason it sticks out to me isn't because my first impression of Eric was, I really like him. It was quite the opposite. In fact, Eric got on every nerve that I knew about, and the things that I didn't know about. And after a few weeks, we got to know each other, and being a part of an all-military troop really gives you some connections, and you make a lot of good friends that way, and several of them are here this evening. Eric was a hell raiser, and I'll admit I was there too. Can't tell you which one of us started most of it or finished it or anything. I'm sure Miss Eileen would know a little better on who started it or not, but I can't tell you. One of my good memories with Eric is a hike. I don't remember where this hike was, but I know it rained a lot in Hawaii, and I know that we were soaked to the bone. And Eric, being the funny guy he is, and me being the extremely small 13-year-old. Hey, Mike, you know that bag weighs more than you, right? And I was like, yeah. He was like, but you know you're wet. You weigh more than the bag. And I was like, thanks, Eric. That really helped. And I remember later that night, it rained really hard. In fact, so hard that every time a raindrop hit the fly of the tent, it would mist on the inside. And we woke up in about 3 inches of water. And we went out and we sat underneath the gazebo and we played cards from about 2 in the morning until about 7 in the morning when everybody else got up. Only to find that a friend of ours had locked the keys in the car with all the food. And that's a bit of an inside joke. I won't reveal the name. He's not here, so I can't really make fun at it. You know, Eric he wasn't just a friend. He was my best friend. I can't say that I was his best friend, but I know he was mine. I didn't just lose my best friend. I lost a family member. I lost a brother. Everybody hear me in the back? I don't want to blow anybody's ear out by using the mic. It's probably picking me up anyway. My name is Jameson, and As you can clearly see, I'm not in the scout uniform, and I actually didn't know him from the scouts. I met him in Princess Anne High School, where he very quickly became one of my best friends in an extremely short period of time. It didn't take very long. Hey, where'd you come from? Oh, I came from Hawaii. My parents were, Navy. That was it. My dad did 20, and obviously he had just come from there, but I remember we were going back and forth about dealing with the personal projects that you have to have done between your freshman year and your sophomore year in the International Baccalaureate Middle Years program. He wasn't there for freshman year, so he got there and they pretty much said, hey, this is something you need to have in about 2 months. I had no idea how he was going to be able to pull this off because so many of us had a summer at the least, sometime during the year for some people, and he pulled it off. He did very well. And we continued talking during the rest of sophomore year, junior year. Not that I think any of us really need an example of how intelligent or long-winded that Eric could get. I'm going to give everybody one anyway because I think it's really remarkable. It was during this May, it was during exam season. And of course, we're IB seniors. And we were one of the handful of people not taking the specific exam. So when we met up in chemistry, higher level chemistry, where there were a total 7 students, and attending that day, I think 3. Eric and I were, obviously working on chemistry and all that sort of stuff, and not overly surprisingly, we got sidetracked. But what we got sidetracked on was history, and how both of us enjoyed that. And he had his laptop open, and he pulled up a few different games related to that. And I had never expressed any sort of major interest in that. I just enjoyed it in my history courses. And as we were going back and forth, he was talking about this, it struck me that I've never spoken about this a lot. And yet, here is Eric talking about this line of games that seem incredible because of how accurate they are. Not just accurate to history, but accurate to what I thought that I would enjoy, and how he could tell that I would enjoy them. That class lasted about an hour and a half. About an hour of which we spent talking about the games. Because we both knew that higher level chemistry was, it was higher level chemistry. The other 5 people in that class understand what I'm talking about, but we then went to history. And we had a variety of topics, 2 years worth of topics that we could have gone over during that class. And we both walk in, the 2 of us, nobody else in that class except for Mrs. Pedikowski. And she then asks us, what do we want to be going over? And we both figured she probably thought we were going to ask about something we'd already covered. Eric and I, an hour and a half, 2 hours, talking about the Gulf War, which was not even going to be on the exam. It's that type of person that Eric was, and the type of stories that we all have, and several of us have shared. Some of us have known him for a couple of years, some of us have known him for his entire life. Some were much closer to him than others could claim to be. What I know that I can claim is that I believe that I have yet to meet a finer young man. And I have yet to think that I will meet another one like him. There isn't a way to articulate how I feel with his loss. And there certainly can't be a way to articulate how sorry I am to his family. But I do know that he's looking down on all of us. And I do know that he's sorry for the pain that we're all getting. And I know that
at some point, if you were actually here, he'd find some way to make a joke that all of us would laugh at, regardless of our different backgrounds, because that was who he was. And inadvertent as it might have been, Navy orders or Navy orders, I want to thank his family for bringing him to Virginia Beach.
I met Eric on the playground. He had just arrived on the ferry and had just moved into our neighborhood. And I have many children. I have 5 children, but 3 boys. And my 3 boys ran into the house and they said, "Mom, there's a boy." And he has a brother. And I said, "Great, where is he?" "Well, he won't come in the house." "Okay, he doesn't know you." "Okay, I'll come out and meet him." So I went out to the playground and there was this bright face. And he looks at me and he says, "Hello." "I'm Eric." "And this is Dylan." And I said, "Hi, it's great to meet you. Here's my children. I am Mrs. Crony. How are you?" He said, "Great." And I said, "Well, do you want to come in?" And he said, "I can't." I said, "Okay." And he says, "Well, you have to meet my mom first." I said, "Great, where is she?" "Well, she's over there, but she doesn't look normal." She doesn't normally wear a skirt. There's a dad. He had me at hello. The best days over the last 9 years are the days where I hear my boys laughing and we have been all over the world. But when I walk in and find out what they're laughing at, I just hear Eric's voice coming over the Xbox speaker. I have 2 children who are away right now, and one is in the military in training right now. And he and all my children just wanted to say how much we love you. He is indelible on our lives. He transformed us and he made us better for just knowing him. We love you and we love your family. And he'd have all the love from the children as well.
My name's Randy, and like a lot of these guys up here, I met Eric in 2012 during the National Youth Leadership course. And I walk in, and my buddy has like, "Hey, you gotta meet this guy." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "What's his name?" He's like, "Big Island." I was like, "What?" Hold on. I was like, "What's his actual name?" He's like, "It's Eric." I was like, "Okay." Like, his brother too. He's like, "That's Little Island." I was like, "Okay." I walked up and I met him and his brother, and I was like, "So Big Island." He's like, "Hey, we just came from Hawaii, and we were talking." Well, after that course, I kept in contact with Eric. He was really cool, really fun, always made you laugh, made you smile. Got our last course that I staffed with Eric at Hope Haven, we found they had swords in their chaplain. And swords fights got a little extreme to some extent. No blood, but last time I saw Eric was this September at the Catholic retreat at Reed, and I'm all the way across the parade field, and I have an orange hat. That's how a lot of people in Scouts pick me out of the crowd. I'm all the way across camp, and all I hear is Randy, and I turn around, and I just see this little speck, and he goes, "It's Big Island," and I mean, that's all you hear yell. And I mean, I just see him run across the parade field, and I get tackled. That doesn't happen often. So, we hung out Friday night. I met Patrick that night, and the next day, we were like, campfire. And if you know me and fire, they're big. You had Eric with me with fire, it's really big. And it started to rain. He's like, "Well, where's all the wood?" I was like, "All the pallets and everything I brought up are down there by the campfire." So it's pouring down rain, and we're trying to find tarps. We're ripping tarps out from under tents. They're like, "Yeah, they'll find out there." We get down there, we cover up the wood. Well, as soon as we cover it up, it stops raining. Take the tarps off, we build a campfire, and Eric goes, "It's not big enough." And we already have a stack of wood that's about 6 feet high already. And he's like, "It's not big enough." I was like, "Well, if we go any higher, we're gonna get in trouble." He's like, "We'll just slide it about 10 minutes before anybody gets down here." He's like, "It'll burn down." I was like, "Okay." So, as the stack of pallets up to my height, we then go through and make a teepee around it that adds about 2 feet to it. Well, when we go and we light this fire, like you said, 10 minutes before the campers start coming down after dinner, we look at each other and like, we think this is too big. Because we have to have a flag retirement ceremony about 30 minutes into our campfire. Well, luckily it burnt down enough, and we stayed out there for about, I think we were out there till 1, 2 in the morning, still retiring flags. That's just how many flags we had going. And it was just a nice long conversation with myself, him, and Brendan King, which is up at camp now. Couldn't be here. But it was just another night, with your brothers around a campfire, and the conversation didn't end. We went to the mess hall. I don't think we slept Saturday night. We ended up helping get everything ready for breakfast in the kitchen the next morning. But it's just hard losing a brother like that you've known for not as long as some of you, but just as long as I have, because he had such an impact on my life and how happy he made everyone in their day-to-day life. And it's just, we lost a hero to a lot of people. So, I'm sorry.
Hello, I'm Grant. I'm also with the PA crew, and I think it's just a great thing that so many of us are here today in our respective uniforms, though I must say this is slightly less cool of a uniform than some others. But it's because this is what we do, and this is what we'll continue to do. Personally, though, I'm not rowing this year. I think I don't enjoy it as much because I'm sort of stuck in my own head, and I believe that, without a doubt, through the course of human history, Europeans developed crew to replace communal dancing. Because they didn't like the dancing anymore, but they still wanted something where they could all come together and just repeat the same motion over and over again with a bunch of different people and feel totally connected in that way. And I think that's what crew did. And I think, even for us high schoolers, that even if we hate rowing, even if Eric all the time, because Dylan, whose responsibilities in any race were to lay down, steer the boat, and yell, would always show up to conditioning even when Eric didn't. And so, because it's a completely different experience to be there on the water, like Griffin and Eric said, when all the oars move in sync with each other, when like 4 or 8 bodies are completely in sync, forwards, backwards. I think that actually does something. And it's hard, you know, wearing this uniform now to a second memorial. And we stick together as a team. Even like when, like me, I'm not even rowing this year. Griffin and Eric every time just tell me to come to the pep rally. Dylan told me to come to the pep rally, sit with the crew team, because we stick together. And I think Eric was a big part of that too. And adding his own unique sense of humor to the whole thing definitely defined the environment of crew. And I'm just more than grateful to have been part of crew and to have been a part of crew at the same time as Eric. And Eric will always be a part of this crew.
Hello, my name is Hayes, and I met Eric in 2012, my freshman year of high school, when I joined the crew team. And we were both new on the crew team, novices, and I just wanted to share a story about Matthew's regatta in 2013, and it was a disaster. It was so bad. So it was raining a little bit, like it was a light sprinkle that you could feel it. And it was really, really, really windy. And so all the waves are really high, and it's almost white capping out there. And so I'm on a boat, and coach tells me I'm stroking for this race. I've never stroked before in any race ever, only like once in practice. So I'm freaking out, and Eric's just trying to keep me calm, telling me I'll do fine and stuff. And so we go out there, and I think Dylan was coxing us. So we go out there, we get up to the line, and we're not even ready. We haven't even feathered our oars. We're not even at the catch. And then we're just sitting there, and all of a sudden we hear row. And so we're like, so I go, and I start the racing start, kind of. And then halfway, this is a really short race, by the way. This is like, for a sprint, it's even short for a sprint. So halfway down the race, they're both screaming at us to weigh in up. And so we stopped and said, line up again, because Cox and Green Run, I think, they crashed into each other. And for some reason, the ref guys thought, you know, we should restart the race halfway down the line of a tiny race. And so we all line up again, and Dylan has me back, which means the boat goes in reverse, like the opposite direction, and it's kind of hard to do. And so while we're backing, everybody's at the line or whatever, while I'm backing, they say row again. And so I have to try and row, and Eric's right behind me, and we're trying to do another racing start, and 3 strokes into it, Dylan calls a bonsai. And so basically the whole race was only like 20 strokes. Yeah, and we passed some people even though we started out backwards, but it was awful. You're not supposed to restart a race if somebody crashes anyway. I don't know what that was about, but yeah, awful race. But when we get back on land and we put all the boats up and everything, we're all laughing about how bad it was because it's not a serious regatta. Like somebody said before, Matthews is it's kind of a fun regatta. Put fun in quotations because it's awful usually. But yeah, so I'm up on land and I'm even though the only way he could calculate it was probably 20 strokes. He can't really tell that somebody was that good. But it made me feel good. And that's just the kind of person he was, you know. He always found light in something terrible. There was always something good about it. I'm gonna miss him.
Obviously, as you can see, I know Big Island from scouting. The first time I met Big Island would have to be my first course that I staffed for MLT, which was the year 2013. I was a troop guide, and it's one of the most stressful positions ever. One of our staff trainings, I remember we were practicing our staff skit for the big campfire, and we were the human centipede. And I was tired, exhausted, and I'm also a very shy person. So I was like out of it. I was sitting down, everybody was like, come on, Christina, come on. And it's like, no, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm exhausted, I'm shy. And next thing you know, Big Island comes up to me. And he goes, Christina, what's up? And I'm all like, I don't want to do it, I'm shy. And he goes, well, there's no need to be shy because we're one big happy family. And at that point, I was like, it was just something special. So I got up and I was like, all right, fine. And it was funny because for like the longest time, I actually thought that was his name, Big Island. Tangent, I actually thought that was their name, Big Island and Little Island. Like, it makes sense. Big brother, little brother. Eventually I learned their names, Eric and Dylan. But I still call them Big Island and Little Island. And so later on in the course, it was when the participants were sent off to do their own thing. I was exhausted, And Big Island comes up to me again, he goes, Christina, you're doing great. And I said, thank you, it means a lot. And he said, you don't gotta thank me for anything. Like I said, we're one big happy family. And so that was that course. And then the next course after that, the next spring course of 2014, I was service, and so was Eric. And we all did a lot of work with service, but Eric, he did way more, as he always does. He's always there to help, and he does more. And so during the staff feast, we're all supposed to be happy, wide awake, and I look over, and Eric was passed out. He was literally asleep. And I was like, I'm wondering, should I wake him up? And I'm like, no, he's tired, just let him be. And that was that. And the last time I saw Eric was my brother was invited out to Troop 490's flag retirement ceremony. And so my dad and my brother are getting ready, and I'm like, maybe I should go. And I'm all like, is Eric and Dylan gonna be there? And he's like, I think they are. I was like, I'm gonna go. And as soon as I get there, I'm standing there, and I feel somebody like move up to me like this, and I usually don't like that, so I freak out and it's Eric, and he goes, hey, Christina. And I'm like, hey, Big Island. And, we just graduated, and I'm like, so how does it feel? He's like, it's about time. And I'm like, yeah, I know we're done. And he was the first person that came up to me and talked to me, as he always does. And I will never, ever forget that moment. It's the last time I spoke to him. And these memories, they may seem simple to you guys, but I'll hold them in my heart forever. So rest in peace, Big Island.
6 years ago in Troop 180, Hawaii. He was always there for me whenever I needed him. First day of scouting, I was the guy standing at the back, not wanting to talk to anyone. He comes up, "Hey man, how you doing? I'm Eric Andrea." So, he was the first guy in Scouts. And about, as time went on, we just became good friends. His family actually adopted me a couple times. My family went to do some trip. I didn't want to go with them, so they adopted me, took me to do some crazy stuff. We did this massive trip up Hawaii, 100 miles in 5 days. We did so much cool stuff together. About 2 years after I had met Eric, I found out that I was going to be, I was dealing with some pretty serious illnesses, mental illness. And Eric was there for me the whole way, through the hard times. If I needed someone to talk to, he was just there. "Hey man, how you doing? Anything I can do for you?" My Eagle Scout ceremony, he was one of the Eagle Feathers, the Indians who gave me the Eagle Feather. I saw him as an adopted brother, and I will really miss him.
Hi, my name is Chris, and as you can see, I knew Eric, your scout. Before I read what I wrote, I just want you to know that my family is just so touched with all the memories that you've shared with us. It's really helping us to heal, and that's really what we need. Again, I can't thank you enough for the outpouring of emotion, the stories, the laughter. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. And bear with me here, there's a little bit of participation on your part here. On behalf of my wife Eileen, son Dylan, and our family and friends, we'd like to express our deepest gratitude at the outpouring of support we have received from near and far over the past week. You cannot know how much it has meant to us for you to reach out, either through your calls, text messages, Facebook posts, or visits to our home to express your grief about Eric's sudden passing, sharing how he impacted your life, and asking what you could do to help us. We are so grateful for those of you that felt the need to travel here today from near and far to be with us as we celebrate Eric's life. To try and make sense of why this happened, I will share with you that although he appeared to be happy on the outside, Eric struggled with depression over the past few years. He was receiving care and was trying to understand and cope with his internal struggles. Unfortunately, his burden became too great. We cannot change what happened, but we can remember how Eric affected each and every one of us. From the day he was born in Cherry Point, North Carolina, in July of 1997, Eric began making an impact. As new parents, we really didn't know what to expect. We went through all the same feelings and actions that all new parents do. Little sleep, changing diapers, wondering if we were doing the correct things for our new baby. Along comes our first little baby checkup at the hospital, and the Navy foreman wearing an all-white uniform. Takes us into the examining room so he can take Eric's vitals, his weight, his length, etc. When he begins to take Eric's temperature, and no, it wasn't done orally, he asks if we have any concerns. Well, he's been a little constipated, was our All I can say is that poor Corman learned by wearing a white uniform was a bad idea. It took all of our strength for Eileen and I to hold it together while that poor H-3 just looked at us and as he graciously excused himself from the examination. As a young boy, he loved watching Elmo's World, so much so that he knew every episode. He also loved to read, and did so with a passion, and there were many times where we could not provide him with enough books to read. He also loved dinosaurs, and could tell you the names of each of them without hesitation. Some people would call him the dinosaur boy. We also had a chance to experience Eric the dancer. As my wife Eileen can attest, I am not a dancer at all. Yes, I can do the slow dance routine and move from side to side, so it looks like I'm doing something. Not so with Eric. Before we moved to Guantanamo Bay, we helped our friends Liz and Suzanne with a chartered weekend ski trip. On Saturday night, we had dinner in the ballroom, with the night ending with a DJ. Well, nobody was dancing. For some reason, and I can only guess it had to do with his consumption of too many Shirley Temples, Eric just struts out onto the dance floor and begins to break it down. The kid had moves, and he danced the night away. It gets even better a few years later at CB Bowl in Gitmo, when I can't locate Eric. Lo and behold, he's on the dance floor with a cute-looking CB, dancing his butt off. I laugh and smile at the great time he's having. But the dad part of me says, and this is where you can help me out, in my Michael McConaughey voice, all right, all right, all right. This brings us to Eric's scouting journey, which began in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, when he joined the Cub Scouts. He enjoyed being a Weeblo and getting to wear the uniform. However, it was becoming a Boy Scout that really made him happy. He loved everything scouting had to offer. The campouts, the food, working out merit badges, and simple service projects to help the base community. Eileen and I would often ask him what his goals were in scouting. And there was no doubt that it was to become an Eagle Scout. He would tell us that he needed to do it before he was affected by the fumes. Puzzled, we asked him what he meant by fumes. Perfumes and car fumes. He didn't want girls or driving to get in his way of burning. The support scouting provided to our family was awesome. When Eileen was deployed to Afghanistan in 2008, provided our family with a sense of normalcy and belonging. In 2009, we moved to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, and joined Troop 180. We could literally walk out of our house and be at the scout hut in just over a minute. How awesome is that? I mean, that you can't do that. To say that joining Troop 180 was a blessing would be an understatement. By Scoutmaster Michael Olm, Committee Chair Rick Goodwin, Mark Kern, Bill Finn, my wife, and many others, Troop 180 was incredible. All of our scouts, including Eric and Dylan, had the ability to excel at everything scouting had to offer. camping, swimming, hiking, biking, you name it, we probably did it and then some. What impressed us most about Eric was his willingness to do for others, especially when it came time for his Eagle project. There was a period of time when we got to Hawaii when Tripler Army Hospital helped our family in our time of need. And Eric wanted to provide something for them. He connected with the manager of Fisher House. They developed a project that he could do for the residents that used the facility, a raised vegetable garden. This garden was important because it allowed residents, many from Guam, to cultivate and harvest all kinds of vegetables to use during their stay. And he said it gave them a way to stay busy and save money they didn't have. Eileen and I will always remember that night in October of 2010 when Eric and his friend Michael Kern successfully completed their Eagle Boards of Review. What a proud night for both families, so much so that we held a joint Eagle Court of Honor. I'd like to point out that Michael, followed by Eric, earned the National Outdoor Medal, and we're number 6 and 7 in the nation to do so. Michael, Eileen, Dylan, and I are so grateful for Gregory from Minnesota to be with us and to help us celebrate Eric's life. You'll never know how much it means for us to have him here. Hawaii is also where Eric got to experience National Youth Leadership Training at Camp Pupakea on Oahu. For the non-scouters in the room, NYLT is a 6-day course that centers on the concepts of what a leader must be, what he must know, and what he must do. The key elements are then taught with a clear focus on how to. The skills come alive during the week as the patrol goes on a quest for the meaning of leadership. Well, Eric was hooked, and he understood how important this course was for Boy Scouts to become better leaders. After our time in Hawaii, we moved to Virginia Beach in the summer of 2012, and he joined Troop in Crew 490 with St. Gregory the Great. Maybe it was just the nature of our family, but we have continued to volunteer our 1 hour a week with Scouts at the Troop Crew, Venturing Officer Association, Order of the Arrow, and the list goes on. Eric, Dylan, and Eileen have staffed NYLT here in Tidewater a few times, so you can see that it's very important to us. Well, this summer, Eric, Dylan, and Eileen, and myself, along with our Blue Heron brothers, attended the National Order of the Arrow Conference at Michigan State University, where we celebrated our first 100 years and kicked off our next century of service. The main message from the conference was that every drop of water creates a ripple that extends infinitely outwards when it touches the ocean. Over time, those ripples join together to become an enormous wave, large enough to impact anything in its path. As enormous and powerful as that wave may be when it crashes on the shore, it began as a single drop of water from the sky. The NOAC theme of "It Starts With Us" is a message that we are the beginning of something bigger. A drop in a large ocean of humanity from which ripples extend in every direction. The nature of that ripple, singular, collaborative, positive, or negative, is entirely up to us. Which brings us to today. Eileen and I wanted to do something to remember our son, not so much for his accomplishments, but for what he did for others. We learned that he was willing to use his own money, which he didn't have much of. To help us offset the cost of NYLT for a young scout. That was our single drop of water from the sky. Eileen and I decided that Eric's Ripple would be to help support and encourage young people in their pursuit of leadership development by creating the Eric DeAndrea Scouting Memorial Fund. We don't know how big the ripple will become, but if we can help one scouter, it's worth it. I also wanted to share the next part of our journey, since we are not having a typical Catholic Mass as you might expect. Eric shared with us during our trip to Arlington National Cemetery during our journey to NOAC that he wanted to join the Navy as a CEC officer and would someday earn the honor to have Arlington as his resting place. When that time comes next year, we'll have Eric's Catholic service at Arlington. In closing, I would like to thank all of you who travel from near and far to be here with us today. For your hugs, your words of encouragement, for the endless meals that keep showing up at our door. For everyone that has rallied around our family to support us, from the military, scouters, neighbors and friends, Princess Anne crew, classmates, thank you. When things quiet down, please continue to reach out to check on us. And lastly, to Bailey McGowan, thank you for allowing my son Eric to love and be loved. You mean the world to us. Thank you.
Appreciate all those that have shared their fond memories there. We'll now have another musical number given by Miss Regina Rossi, Over the Rainbow. Thank you, Ms. Rossi. There are many ceremonies that mark milestones in the Scouts' progression. This is just the next ceremony that marks the progression of Eric DeAndrea's life. It's not the last ceremony. It's just the next. In thinking about all the words that have been spoken, don't you get a sense for not only who Eric was, but what was important to him and what he valued? If you think of this life as a test, right? And it's not about accumulating stuff. If it's about loving God and loving your neighbor, you really get a sense that Eric passed the test. Eric's span of influence in this world in only 18 short years is very impressive. And when we look out over all those that are gathered here today from all the different communities, right? We just heard the song Over the Rainbow, from the military community, from the scout community, from those that knew him at school, in sports, right? Daycare, what have you. We have quite a group that's gathered here today. I know that's something that's very important to the DeAndrea family, is that each of us take a look around. Everyone's here in support of one individual, Eric DeAndrea. And that one of the messages they wanted to have crystal clear is that when anybody is in need of something, that this fabric of friendship, of love and support exists, that it's there, and to not lose hope. As a military child, Eric lived in 4 different states: North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, Hawaii, and he also had that unique opportunity to live at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where he began his scouting career, learned how to scuba dive. It'd be a safe bet that to say that we have some of his friends in the audience from all 5 locations that he lived, and some from places that he visited. So we're going to break with tradition, and again, like Chris mentioned, invite a little bit of participation here. So if you first met Eric in North Carolina, raise your hand. So he spent the first 18 months of his life there. He's a toddler. But again, as you heard, even there, he made an impact. Eric lived in Virginia when he was 18 months through age 5. And again, second stint, ages 15 to 18. So now again, if you met Eric while he lived in Virginia, either of those times, raise your hand. I'm glad everybody's paying attention. Eric also lived in Maryland from the age of 5 until age 9. So if you met Eric while in Maryland, please raise your hand. Thank you. Guantanamo Bay, right? He was there from age 9 until age 12. So those of you that first met Eric there, please raise your hand. Excellent. In Hawaii, where Big Island lived, from age 12 to age 15, if you knew Eric while in Hawaii, please raise your hand. Thank you. Again, anybody that might be struggling with feelings of hopelessness, let this event leave an indelible impression on your soul. That there are many, many more people than you realize that love and care for you. And I think Eric would want you to know that. Dylan, your wingman has gone to scout the way ahead. He's gone to prepare the way for you. I know that you'll miss him. But next time you're at a Yankees game, just remember that Eric might be watching from the sky cam. He might even find some way to tease you or get on your nerves, even from up there. I couldn't help noticing a quote next to Eric's picture in one of those scout yearbooks. And it simply said, "Let go of the past and move forward." That's what a leader does. And a leader doesn't have to be old, as we saw. I mean, from an early age, Eric exhibited those qualities of leadership that all of us want to have. He earned that rank of Eagle Scout, and that's something that very few young men earn. Quote, "It demonstrates both leadership and a commitment to duty." Chris mentioned Eric's Eagle Project. Again, he's thinking of paying it forward, of a way to give back. Not thinking about what he's going to get out of it, but how he can bless the lives of others. Eric was a giver. In spite of the struggles that he dealt with, again, that for many he didn't let on, he still continued to give. As Chris mentioned, if there was a scout in need, he'd give money so that he could go through the same leadership training that he had received. And Eric he had served as staff at the National Youth Leadership Training 5 times. This scouting was just a part of Eric, and he embodied the virtues of scouting. He truly caught the vision of scouting. It's human nature to ask why. And though I don't think any of us could answer that question, I know that our Father in heaven is a good recruiter. And he always has his eye on the best. Our natural reaction is to want to arm wrestle him for Eric, to keep him with us, to have him back. But God's work goes on both in this life and the next. And this work is only expanding. Chaplain Carrie Egan said, quote, "We learn about God when we learn about love. The first, and usually the last, classroom of love is the family." Close quote. If nothing can separate us from the love of God, it must be true of the family as well. The family is nothing if not eternal. The family is eternal. Eric fought a courageous fight. He was a bright light to all those around him. He's a true leader with a servant heart, as we've heard borne witness today, time and time again. The ever-present love of his family and friends continues to bear him up on the wings of eagles, and this eagle now soars through the eternities. Let us pray. Please rise. Our dear Father in heaven, we give thanks for your grace that has brought us together to be blessed by the memories of your son, Eric Michael DeAndrea, that you have given to us for the length of time that we have enjoyed his company, his friendship, his love. We ask your grace to continue with us. Help us to move forward as He would have us do and as you would have us to do. And let us do so in your love. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. You may be seated.
On behalf of Eric's family, I'd like to thank you all for coming today. This will conclude the services here at the funeral home. Everyone is invited over to St. Gregory's Catholic Church for continued food and fellowship. To facilitate the flow of traffic out of the chapel, we ask that we start from the first row and then go up the center aisle and exit out the doors immediately there. Again, thank you all for coming.
Nice hat. You got two of them.
Yeah, it's my brother and my dad.
Only two. Well, I mean, I would certainly be. Genius.